All right, welcome back to the School of Why podcast. I've got one of my favorite guests on today, and that's Mr. Scott Bloom. How are you, Scott?
I am doing quite well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no,
Appreciate
anytime. I
that.
was glad to have you on the show. I didn't know if you were kind of getting too big for me. I noticed on your LinkedIn you've got a lot of big stages. You're kind of up and coming. For us little guys, thank you so much for coming down here to be with us. But it's funny. I met Scott, and I was at this little three ring circus deal with other thought leaders, some of which I've had on the show, and I'm sitting next to him, and I'm thinking he's kind of where I'm at, like there to learn and see what's going on, and maybe doesn't know that much of where he wants to go next with his speaking. And next thing I know, it's the lunch break and he's up on stage. And I didn't realize that his whole shtick was comedian. So Scott, it's interesting because it's almost like you're the spoof version of a keynote speaker while being a keynote speaker. Uh, how did you even come to figure that out? And tell me a little bit about what is it that you love to do and why you do it.
Yeah, no, that's a good way of putting it. It's funny because all my comedy has always been sort of parroting or spoofing things,
Hmm.
and no, I love making audiences
Like the Weird
laugh. I've
Al
been doing it
You're the Weird Al Yankovic of keynotes.
of keynotes. It's a
Have you been
weird
called that
spot
yet?
because no, I have not. I have
Okay, well
not.
that you can have that, by the way. That no charge.
Okay, I might toss it as soon as we get off the podcast, but I appreciate it. Um, But, I, it's an interesting niche. So, I like doing comedy. I started off as a stand-up comic, moved into the corporate realm, and for the last, 30 years, I've been doing either emceeing or keynoting. So, MC was my sort of forte, my strength. Started back in in the 90s doing these corporate events where I would host, and in between, I was able to bring in some corporate comedy. It was always business related. So the comedy was safe, it was clean, the audience could relate. I had a nice sort of connection with them. And then I sort of moved into the keynote space, but I also wanted to continue to do comedy. So the challenge has always been, how do I deliver a message and still do what it is that I like doing, which is this sort of parody comedy stuff. So
Mhm.
I try to my keynote's really about connecting, and it's what I learned from connecting with my audiences, which is what I realized is that people want to have an experience. They want to feel something while you're talking to them. And
Mhm.
I was able to use, comedy as that way of sort of connecting with them. And then also talking about what I do to connect with my audiences. And what I do is trying to make it about them, make them feel special. And through that process, we start to build a relationship. So I'm hoping during the keynote, besides the content that I deliver, they have this experience where they're like, "Oh, I'm feeling connected to them. Why is that?" And I explain it's because, you feel something and you feel like I took some time and made some effort to make this
Yeah.
about you.
I'll never forget that, yeah, and I think that's what makes it so unique is that you make it so much about whoever it is you're talking to, which obviously is your way of trying to have a deeper sense of really purpose in what you do, which ends up being an even more entertaining experience. I actually and the way you do it, I thought was interesting because it felt like this was like kind of the first time you did it and you were kind of stumbling around, but you were excited to be here. And then I watched one of your other videos and realized, okay, this is the stick. But you do a great
Mm.
job of coming up with it. I think I watched the one with the a chemical cleaning company or something like that.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
you gave the CEO a rapper name. I mean,
Right.
those people were dying laughing. I mean, I was dying laughing. I don't even work there, so it's amazing. And they tell us that, right? It's like, how are we going to really focus in on what it is we do for this audience? What are we giving to them as opposed to just making it about some talk or, and I've been going back and forth with that a lot. I mean, and what you did was, especially in the space with that we were in that day, is you kind of took the real serious, taking ourselves too serious and like completely flipped it upside down. And I think that's what a lot of people do with work and where we get so stressed out is being so intense about some specific thing that just has to happen, and then we're all tweaked out and we don't perform well, and it's a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Is that part of why you do what you do?
It's why I do what I do, and that's I'm hoping that's part of the message that they get. I also talk about, that we do get, stressed out, and we just have to take things, have a sense of humor about things, have a
Yeah.
lightness about things that, we can laugh. It's all right to laugh. And I think we get into that grind when we are really just getting, hyper focused, hyper stressed on something. At the end of the day, nothing's really that important, on
Mhm.
a higher level. I mean, we still all want to be, active and do well, but I think we take things too seriously. And comedy is a great way to say, and especially when I go to these meetings, like I just closed a conference last week, and it was exactly what they needed. They had 3 days of conferences and serious stuff. If I was an environmentalist and nothing, I'm trying to make fun of environmentalists or a lawyer or even just something that was very sort of straightforward, it probably would have been hard to keep their attention. And so
Mhm.
I try to make it, engaging in making it interactive, getting them to laugh so they're actually having a good time while they're learning. And maybe that's the message there is you can have a good time while you're working.
Yeah, and I know that that's something that people tend to forget, and, I try to remember that. It's like, "Okay, am I having fun? Is it possible to have fun? Should I be having fun?" But, like, bringing fun into, like, the equation at least, and I think one thing I've learned early on is, like, having really great bullet points. Because even when you're in a meeting or, like, for me, even if I'm on, like, a conference call with someone or I'm doing a talk or whatever it is or a podcast, no matter what I'm doing, I try to really enjoy myself in whatever that is because I might as well, right? And one thing I've realized that in general, people enjoy being entertained. So like it's okay to be that. And I've always like had like a really deep sense of humor. My brothers are really funny. And so that's why like immediately I was just like saw what you did and I was like, "Oh my god, this is classic." Cuz I'm already sitting in this room feeling like am I really this type of keynote speaker? You know what I'm saying? Am I the right
Right.
type of
It's very
person?
kind of just sort of serious. I'm
Yeah,
just
am
going
I
to tell
gonna
my
fit
story.
into this deal, like innovation and creativity, and like that's how we do it, and I'm backable and all this sort of stuff. And no offense to that, because I love it, and that'll probably be me in 2 months. But I'll still have to find a way to friggin' laugh about it because I can't not laugh about it. When I take it too seriously, I lose who I am, like kind of at the core. So I love that breath of fresh air because I've written 2 books and I'm always trying to figure out kind of what the angle is, and I struggle not to be too serious. I'm always like kind of my first MO ends up usually being like very serious because I don't know why. I guess it's just because of the content. You're living with purpose and having passion and all this stuff. But the fact is that you can't always be that damn serious, you know?
Well,
And
but you
you
made a good point. But you made a good point about passion is that when we get when we lose that connection with people, it's when we get in our head, when we're thinking too much about it, and that's going to add either stress or worry or taking us out of the moment. But when we're really sort of connecting with someone and have passion about it, we're not even thinking about it. It's just coming through, and it isn't work. It becomes effortless. And I think that's what we're
yeah,
sort of striving to is bring the attention down and then out and away from you. I think
I
when
love that.
people yeah, I think when people, I tell presenters this when I,
So basically
whether it's
deflecting.
well, tell me what do you mean by deflecting? Because that's a little bit
No, I'm
different
just
than what I'm
kidding.
saying.
I know, I'm just fucking with you.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah,
just don't deal with things.
the modern art of deflecting and dealing with nothing and pushing it back on the audience. I love it.
Yeah,
Sounds
yeah.
like your next book.
That's one of my
No,
book,
keep going.
titles. I think I have a book title, Honest Relationships, It's Not Me, It's You. How to
Mhm.
take 0 responsibility in relationships. No, you
I
still have
love
to
that.
take responsibility for what you're doing, but it doesn't have to be about you, and it's when it is about you, that's when you start to get self-conscious, you start getting all, worried and how are people, experiencing me? The really good presenters are there to serve, they're there to give, and I always felt as a comedian and as a speaker that I'm there to give, and as far as a comedian, it there's an unconscious sort of dialogue that goes on between the comedian and the audience knows when they're trying to make it about you're trying to make it about you and you're worried about
Yeah.
what goes on.
Okay, so I'm literally looking at your book laughing while you're talking, and I want you to know that even if I didn't hear what you just said, I'm going to rewind it later and I'll watch it. But
Okay.
This right here is your cover of your book, which is freaking hilarious. And some of these covers in here are just it's classic because it could so easily be, okay,
Right, that's
how to
how to
deliver
deliver
sub
subliminal messages. Buy the book. Buy the book. It's by
I
Will
mean, it's like
Purchase.
the fact is that, like, it's like the South Jersey Beach diet, the high carb, high fat, high sugar, low protein diet, author of Fatkin's Diet and Body Fat for Life, right? So, but these, like, when you look at these, I mean, it's not that far off from all these books out there, right? And for a minute there, I was like, man, is my book like this? So, what made you think to do this? I mean, it's freaking hilarious. And do you ever now? Do you ever expect to write an actual book that's not about fake book covers, or what would that look like?
I don't know if I plan on that. I mean, the joke is that I try to become a traditional author, and I found out it's way too much work, so I became a faux author. But what's funny about the book is that even though I'm parroting personal development and professional development, there like a lot of my comedy, even though you know there's a joke, there's something that, and I don't mean it purposefully, it's just how I write and I communicate. But there's actually like life lessons in there. I mean, I have a title called Manifesting Like a Mofo, putting the universe on notice. And in
I
it,
love that one.
it's taking your book and it's you're the author of your book, and then you just give it to the universe, and you take your book of life and take it out of the fiction section and put it in the nonfiction. I'm just making that up because I think that's funny, but that's
Dude,
true.
okay, did you see We Crashed on Apple TV, Apple
I have
Plus? Do you
not. I
watch
want to
Apple
see
Plus?
that. I want to
Okay,
see
well,
that.
it's it's a good show, but the funny part is that the wife of the guy who created WeWork is constantly talking about, "We manifested this." And, like, you just need to manifest this, and then when he doesn't manifest something, it's because he's brought in negative energy. So when my wife and I just watched it, so when I showed her manifesting like a mofo, okay, I gotta get better at that. Putting the universe on notice, we just literally started dying. But yeah, so like like that book you need to send that book to the WeWork couple who are still, I think, worth $1 billion, even though we crashed. But I feel like they might get a lot out of that book because they love putting the universe on notice.
Well, I mean, it's funny because I'm making fun of sort of new age. I'm making fun of personal growth books. But I read them and I believe in a lot of that stuff
That's
anyway. And
the
that's why I
funny
can sort
part.
of write
Yeah.
about it. And
Yeah,
that's
you're
why
having
it's
fun with it.
I'm walking that line. One of my favorite comedians growing up was Steve Martin. I loved Albert Brooks, and they were able to play things silly but deliver it straight. So
Yeah.
it's funny, but they're not acknowledging that's funny, and that's kind of like what the book covers are. It's
And I think that that's what I loved about it. The art of being passive aggressive, how to make compliments hurt. That's got to be one of your best works of art there.
yeah,
That is a good one. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. Who moved my chi?
yeah. Who
An
moved my chi?
energizing way to deal with change in your aura and life force.
Yeah,
It's
I mean
so,
that could be a real book. I mean it's a play obviously
yeah,
off of Who
thought it
Moved My
was.
Cheese.
Of course, of course. The 7 habits of highly effective hobbits. Powerful lessons from Middle Earth with a foreword and afterword by Bilbo Baggins. I did
Now,
not
the
give him
funny thing about
permission to
that
use
one
this
is
title.
if you
J.R.
if you
Tolkien.
read that so each one has like a little blurb of as if it was a real book, and somehow
Yeah,
if a
this part.
writer
I
wanted to
haven't
find
even read these parts yet. Is that pretty
oh,
good?
those are funny too. That those are
What?
the ones that sort of that apparently
Pull it all
the hobbits
together.
have a little life lesson. They we worry about we make small problems big. They're saying, hey, we're at a low level to begin with. We're just shooting for the middle. We're just trying to get it done.
To them, size is just misguided earthly concept. Hobbits believe that small-mindedness limits our ability to achieve big goals. It's just beautiful and so
That's
true.
coming from a hobbit.
So true. It's so true. Tell me, are they really as friendly in person as they are on the screen?
Well, it helps that they're fictional because you can make them whatever you want. So, yes, if you want them to be friendly, of course. Of course.
Oh, perfecting perfectionism, how to get it right the first time.
And that one is supposedly written about my father being the head of a group called ASAP, which is the absolute Absolute Society. No, I think it's the American Society of Absolute Perfectionism, and my
Is that a
dad was
real
the one who
thing?
taught me. No, it's a made up thing. Everything I do is somewhat made up.
Okay, got
Um,
you.
but in it, he talks about, if I remember, I think he talks about how I learned that if it wasn't perfect, it wasn't right. And I learned to, to build on that and where is the perfect if everyone was perfect in a perfect world, if everyone was perfect, then where's the perfection? So you have to work within the flawed people to bring out your own perfection. It's absurd. You know what it is? It's absurd comedy. Everything it's absurd,
I love
it's
it.
parody.
How to take the how to climb the corporate ladder by taking the elevator. Bonus techniques included stress, the new bliss, how happiness gets in the way of getting things done. Oh my God, that's so true. We it's like funny, but like people actually like this is like real life. People are actually living this life in the corporate
Yeah,
world half
it's
the
an
time.
interesting I think I mean, what I really liked about the book is people really enjoyed it. It's a good fun read, you have the covers, you have the little blurb. So it's a great book to bring on a plane or on a toilet. That's my demo. It's my
Okay,
demographic.
nice. Yeah, yeah. How to be your own grandparent, spoiling your inner child. That one was classic. I'm trying to find my favorite one. I haven't even got to my favorite one yet. This was the one that really just made me absolutely die. Because all your
Was it the
shtick about your
procrastination one?
dad, it's anything like when you start talking about how you were not good enough for your dad. I mean that shit, while always poignant. No, no, yeah. I mean next stop procrastinationville, the art of waiting for the right moment, then letting it. That's a good one. That's still not my favorite. Where is this one? Hold on. This is as good as it gets. Hold on, I'm gonna find it. Oh yeah, here it is.
I
Here it is. Here it is. All right. How to increase your profits by making more money. But here's the important part. The author of Rich Dad, Absent Dad.
It's funny,
Oh
I
my
have that
god.
book cover. I didn't put it in this one. It's funny because I mean, that's what really happens. You got your rich dad, he's not there. He's not there. He's working. That's how he became rich. That's it.
Right.
When I deliver that one live, because I show some of the book covers at my events, once again, I set up as if I'm this best-selling author. I talk about how I won awards from Amazon for having the most books on the Amazon top 100. I think I say at one time I think I had like 7 books. None of it's true, but it's later on in my presentation, so that's sort of on to me, yet they're also going, "Well, maybe this one is true." And then I show some of the book covers, and then I reveal that, it's,
None of it's true.
it's none of it's true, but it was me learning to connect with myself, Yes, if I would write a real book, to me, I like being funny.
Yeah.
That's what I wanna deliver to people. So that was my quickest way to bring, comedy to others through a book form.
I love that. I love it.
Mm.
Man, the
And you
funny
have a
thing, I
great
guess.
laugh. I have to bring you we have to travel together because you have a great
Yeah, no,
laugh.
I was like, I wasn't even I was trying to hold it in. I don't know that I think you were offending the other people in the group, but I was laughing so hard I almost like lost a lung. And when I laugh and something's actually funny, like I do not care if I'm loud. So like in a movie theater or wherever, I don't care. Like cuz if I can get that laugh and it's genuine, it's funny, like I'm letting it ride. Like that shit is solid. I love it. But I felt like I was the only person laughing at some parts of when you were doing the shtick because I think people in that audience were like, "Well, wait a second, that sounds an awful lot like my self-help book.
I
Is he
know.
making fun of me?" So with that audience in particular, it was even more dangerous. You walk into a corporate setting, they're like, "Ha, ha, ha, yeah, those guys that do all that thought leader stuff, they're hilarious. I wish I didn't have to be at this conference. You're freaking hilarious, Scott. Thanks for coming and changing everything." But when you're talking to the thought leaders and you're talking to all these people with self-help books like myself, it's like, "Well, wait a second. Is that me? Am I a laughing stock?" And then here comes the inferiority complex, and here comes all the other stuff,
The
and
whole
then all of a
compare
sudden,
and despair thing. Yeah, yeah. What
but
is what
I
is
was
what is
loving
each
it. I
person?
needed that so bad because I know I've got to scale my message and I know I've got to be a part of that. And quite frankly, I do like to do all of it, but I'm this kind of like oddball. And I guess everybody kind of feels like that, but it's like I don't want to get lost in like just being the perfect speaker or whatever it is that is currently trending on whatever, and that's gonna be my, like, 3 to 5 points, keynote, easy to digest, always coming through, knowing the problem, knowing the trauma, and knowing the credibility. I don't remember how they do it, PCT,
PCP,
PCP?
yep.
Is it
PCP.
PCT or is it PCP? I really don't
I
know.
it's a little of both. I've been struggling with it, but yeah, problem, credentials, transformation. I think that's what they were
That's what
talking
it
about.
is, okay.
I mean, it's
And I
classic
hope that
sales.
everyone yeah, anybody from 3RC should know that if I'm taking you on a podcast that we're gonna roast a couple things here and there, but you're basically you're roasting yourself a bit, you're roasting your absent dad, you're roasting really just about anybody that you can without going too far. But I think it's funny because real talk, so the rich dad, poor dad, either way, if you have a poor dad, you need a rich dad. And if you have a rich dad, you usually will need a poor dad, right? Somebody who just has nothing to do, always available, can go fishing, whatever you need. You want to hang out and have a beer? I'm available, right? Because I'm the poor dad. So it's like the rich
Well, let me
people with
let
the
me
rich
ask
dad
you
want a poor dad. Yeah.
let me ask you, Frankie. So I see what you're, what you're where you're struggling with or where you're going here with your
Hmm.
keynote. You want it to be authentically you, but you don't want to blend into the background. There's thousands of keynotes now, tens of thousands. What was the number? Do you remember the number he said?
I was so I didn't get in till 2 in the morning the day before. So I felt like I was in like I missed most of the stats. I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you.
Right, right. Well, there's a lot. There's a lot.
Yeah.
So really, how do you stand out? No, that's the big question. And I'm sure you talked on your podcast a
And
lot,
what do you gotta
but
do to stand out, right? Get naked? I mean, what you gotta get crazy sex tapes? I mean, that's what I
yeah,
was thinking. I haven't met with the 3RC guys yet and consulted with it, but I figured a sex tape is kind of a prerequisite, right, nowadays,
I
stand out a
think
little
that
bit?
might be their second. I think that's their booty camp instead of boot camp. There's a little difference. Uh,
Yeah, like, for those people that can't make it in the real boot camp, you know?
so is your talk about what you wrote about the last 2 books? Is it about the
So,
why, finding the
yeah.
why?
Yeah, I mean, it is, but the why is too broad probably to have into one keynote, so it's gonna be some portion of that that's the keynote. And that's actually what I'm in the middle of doing with Jordan and those guys right now is identifying well, that's never good. Um that'll definitely be in the recording. But anyway, so I we're still kind of working through that. Like I'm going to Detroit to that conference they do over there. And I guess the beginning of August and doing that. So a lot of the work we're doing now is just kind of prepping and refining. I've got several. The problem is, like all of us, I've got 3 or 4 different talks that I'll normally do. Um, but I really wanted to get feedback from them on like what what's the best one to connect with the audience and make it to where I'm not going too far out to where it's not covering anything, which is usually one of my problems is out, mile wide, inch deep was always that's going to be my first faux cover is a mile wide,
Right,
inch deep. How to the
right,
master the art of being a jack of all trades or whatever, something like
right.
that.
Master
And
of
that
nothing,
maybe
right?
that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll just follow in your footsteps. You could be my rich dad, poor dad, and I don't know which one you'd be, but I could be like the next faux person. I just write faux books. I don't. Maybe that's the next trend.
Well, you know what? It's interesting. The whole thing about faking it till you make it, for real, not my joke title, um, is that you're just trying to go and do it. You're just trying to
Yeah,
go out there and just do it and not think too much about it. I mean, I think the benefit of something like that, of not just so much fake it till you make it, is just not worry about it during the process. And you do have to
yeah,
just sort of go out there and just give it a shot. And sometimes, I mean, I think actors in a way sometimes do that. You're sort of pretending, and you mentioned me being sort of like parroting the keynote.
yeah.
I'm not pretending to be a keynote. I'm just delivering authentically my comedy.
Right, right. No,
But
that's why it's so
but the
good.
more you feel like a keynote, the more some of that, even that content stuff, starts to resonate more. You have to sort of believe
Mhm.
you're there for a reason.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it is really kind of taking my story. So I told him all of my story and backstory, and I tried to be as like raw with him as possible last week. And so I'm interested to see what they come back with because they're going to kind of, you know, help me with curating that, pitch me some ideas, whatever. But it was interesting because I made a point to give him as much of like the raw bad information, right? Like, some of my family on my dad's side was mixed up in all kinds of stuff. And I won't say that, on the air because I haven't got approval from 3RC if that's going to get me canceled or not. But
Right.
my dad, on the other side, right? I got this other grandfather that was a doctor and wrote concertos and all that. So it's interesting. You got these two grandfathers, and then there's a whole uncles thing. And then my backstory, I was a drug addict, alcoholic, got sober. I mean, who hasn't, right? Isn't that a prerequisite? You got to kind of have that
Yeah.
story. And, just you can't even assume that that's an angle anymore, right? Because now like AA's like really cool and Hollywood and this and that. So like everybody's doing it. It's the cool thing. Sober's the new 80s you know, wasted. So what are you
Yeah,
gonna do?
everyone's sober now. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, everybody has their bottom, and it's just like I think that's the hardest part for me. Like real talk, just us guys and whoever else is watching. But it's like I can't stand the idea of just duplicating something that's already there. Like it irks me. But I think what's helped is the fact that each one of us does have a unique experience and each one of us has a story to tell. And if someone's passionate like myself about telling that story, well then tell it. And we'll find out. If everybody hates it and they think it's ridiculous, I'm sure I'll just go back to, doing my talks at the Rotary Club or, you know, Junior League of
I
Louisiana
think
or
people
something like
wanna
that.
Yeah, I think definitely people want, people to be, not just, honest, but authentic and really do tell their story, and I think there's another way to sort of connect with people, there people are gonna have empathy for your situation, and
Yeah,
also how comfortable you are telling it. It's you don't have shame or embarrassment about it. This is
right.
just what I went through, and this is what I've learned. I'm a better person because of it. That's an inspiring story.
Yeah, and I think that's the important part, and I always try to remember that because this whole it's total BS when we start to get in our head and be like, "Well, I don't want to tell my story because it's not good enough." And once you realize that like literally every human on the face of the earth is thinking the exact same thing, it's like, okay. And my wife, she was like, "I'm so proud of you for doing this," because I told her I was meeting with the 3RC guys this week, and you're getting to the keynote thing. Like, because my first wife would have been like, "Oh, that's fucking ridiculous. You're full of shit. Nobody, you're so fake. Like, yeah, get out of here." I mean, I don't even know if she came to my first book signing, and if she did, she was kind of like looking down her nose. That's of course classic ex-wife. But anyway, my new wife is like, I've actually been pleasantly surprised. She's been like, "Oh, this is a great idea. I love it," and she's being genuine, right? Because she's like, you're literally doing the last thing on earth that I would choose to do, right? Isn't it like in the top 5 number 1 fears is like public speaking or some shit?
Top 3, if not
Top
top
3?
2. Yeah. Public
It's like, what are
speaking,
you
yeah.
doing running into the fire? But I have spent a lot of years like getting more comfortable with it and I do enjoy it. But I like the entertainment part. I was in the music business and that's why I think I was so drawn to your shtick because like I really think that like we can get information from Google. We can watch YouTube videos, but the whole point of doing it needs to be the experience. And I'm really pushing to make sure that that comes through. Because what's the point if not, right? You can hear the same bullet points, the same information, same knowledge from anybody, including probably whoever's running, the corporation that these people that are watching are involved in.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and you don't wanna lecture. I mean, there's plenty of lectures
That's the
out
biggest
there.
thing. I've done a couple of those in my day where I went with the lecture and I had the bullet points right, and it was hard-hitting facts, really compelling facts, really great data, and, like, it was just like, just we went over like a box of rocks because it's like, that's it's gotta be something different if you're just bringing data, even if it's the best data in the world, unless I'm teaching at an academy or university, it's like that's not the point. So well, I tell you what, this has been as exactly as fun and funny as I had hoped it would be. You were always
Right.
awesome to talk to. I appreciate you even being on the show. But if you haven't yet, guys, now is this book actually on Amazon?
Yeah, you can pick it up on
Okay,
Amazon.
there
Called
you go.
You
Pick it up,
Can You Can Judge a Book by Its Cover.
dude.
The
Trust me,
fictionalized true story of how it
this is
became
a
the number 1
worthwhile book.
co-author in the world. Yeah.
Listen, if you're looking for a laugh riot, this is great coffee table material. Also, is a great um what do they call these things? The coaster.
It's
You can use
a,
it for all kinds
yeah,
of stuff.
used as a coaster. Yes. Yeah, most books end up being used as a coaster. I think I have
But
one
this
right
one's
here.
a little thinner, so it's even it's nimble. You can fit in your purse. You can
More sturdy.
bring it to parties. You can laugh about it, and then it also won't will protect the wood at the party that you're at. So that's great.
And this is a good book to read with a group of people too. It actually does have that quality where you can go, "Hey, you wanna look at this cover?"
Yeah, let's
I've had
read
that
this
experience.
together.
Yeah.
So just remember when you're out there, if you want to manifest like a mofo, look up Scott Bloom. Where do they look you up, Scott? Obviously, we got the book on Amazon. Where else do they find you?
They can find me on, my website, scottbloomconnects.com, or on social media at scottbloomconnects, and they can pick up the book on, yeah, on Amazon. Just type it in, and you'll have a great time. It's funny.
I love it. Yeah, no, you definitely will. It is freaking hilarious. I loved it. Yeah, so Scott Bloom connects. I like that. So it's spelled exactly like it is because mine is Frankie Dash Russo. What's interesting, I, I wanted to just get the regular.com, but clearly someone owned it. They wanted to knock my head off for it. Did you have that same experience trying to get
Yeah, there was another
scottbloom.com?
scottbloom.com. I went to Scott Bloom. I also have scottbloom.net, but just to get a little bit more current, I and it's also the theme of what I talk about. So it's
The
Scott Bloom,
connect. Yeah, that helps.
BLOOM, connects.com.
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Dot
Cause I mean,
com.
some of these domain people out there, it's probably not even a Scott Bloom that owns it. It's just some random guy that wants, to pay them $75,000 or we will, hurt this one person that we've kidnapped. It's just like
I
kidnapping, right?
I
It's like,
I got around it. I'm fine with Scott Bloom Connects, and, I
me
every, like,
too.
5 years, I check out the domain and, it never comes up as a website, so he just sorta has it. At some point, he's gonna
That's
forget,
what I'm
and
saying. Yeah, maybe he'll
I'll get
forget,
it.
but he's hoping one day he'll be able to come to you, get 50, maybe 100 grand, because that's how much it matters. And so, and
Right.
that's what, then maybe that'll be our goal, right? How high can we get our regular domain names up to? That maybe that's our new
Oh, that's
goal.
a sign of success, yeah. Someone wants
Yeah.
to,
Once we get,
blackmail you for
100
200,000.
grand, yeah,
Mhm.
$1 million for scottbloom.com. That's when
Right.
you've made it.
You made
All
it,
right,
yeah.
Scott, thank you so much for being on the show and letting me kind of banter and waste your time, whatever we just did. But it was fun for me. I hope it was fun for everybody else. And until next time, Scott Bloom signing off.
So long, everyone.